Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our technical English lesson for grade 11. Our lesson today is Infrastructure 2, which is our second lesson on infrastructure. It's on page 27 of the course book. Now, let's look at the objectives. We have 3 objectives. Number 1, identify the differences between active and passive voice sentences. Number 2, change set of instructions into process description in the present simple passive. Number 3, use the present simple active and passive voices in context. Let's begin. Present simple passive. Read the sentences below and answer the question. We have active voice sentences here and the corresponding passive voice sentences here. Our task is to read the sentences and answer this question. Do the sentences in the active voice have the same meaning as the ones in the passive voice? Let's find out. Number 1, active voice. Hydraulic cylinders push the cutter. Passive voice, the cutter is pushed by hydraulic cylinders. Number 2, active voice. Large scoops collect the rocks. Passive voice, the rocks are collected by large scoops. Now, what is the answer? Very good. Yes, they have the same meaning. Good. Now, look at the sentences again. Look at the active voice. Who performs the action? Great. The subject performs the action. That is, the subject is the agent. What about in the passive voice? In the passive voice, the subject receives the action. So, the subject is not the agent. In most passive sentences, the agent is not mentioned. If it is mentioned, however, it is usually preceded by the preposition by. Just like we have here, the rocks are collected by large scoops. Moving on. Look at this sentence. Hydraulic cylinders push the cutter. This is active voice sentence. And the passive voice is the cutter is pushed by hydraulic cylinders. Now, how is the passive voice formed? We start with the subject, which is the object of the active sentence, followed by is, which is a verb to be. Then we have pushed, which is the past participle of the main verb. And finally, we have the agent. Now, can you complete the rule? The structure of the active voice is subject plus main verb plus the object. What about the passive voice? Subject plus verb space plus past participle of the space verb plus by, and this one definitely is the agent. So now can you complete this? Pause the video, look at the sentence here and complete the rule. Good. Let's check the answer. This is verb to be, and we are talking about the present simple. So the verb to be here will be am, is, and are, and past participle of the main verb like we have here. Great. Now open your course books to page 27. Exercise 6. Change this set of instructions into a description of a process using the passive and the words in the box. These are sequencing words. We use first at the beginning, finally at the end, and in the middle we can use any of these interchangeably. The instructions are in the imperative form, and the word order is base form of the verb followed by the object. Now remember, the structure of the passive voice is subject plus verb to be and past participle of the main verb. Good. You can see that number 1 and number 2 have been done for us. Let's go over them together so that you can be able to do the rest. At the beginning, we start with our sequence word, which is first. Now, the instruction, run the engine for a few minutes. Now, to change this to the passive, we need a subject. And the subject is the object of the instruction. And it is the engine. Very good. So we write the engine. Then we need the verb to be. What is the verb to be? Is it is or are? Very good. It is S because engine is singular. So we have is. Then we need the past participle of the main verb. The main verb is run. What is the past participle of run? Excellent. It is run. So we have first, the engine is run for a few minutes. Now we go to the second instruction. Switch off the engine. So to add this one, we need to have our sequence word. So we can choose any of this. So we have then. Great. So we need the subject. And the subject is engine. Since we have mentioned engine before, it is better to replace it with the pronoun it. So we have it here. And the verb to be is S. And then we need the past participle of the main verb. And what is the main verb? It is switch off. And the past participle of switch off is switched off. Very good. Now pause the video and complete the task. Very good. Let's check the answers. Very good. Now, moving on to our last task. Still on page 27 of the course book, exercise 8. Fill in the gaps using the correct form of the verbs in brackets. You have sentences in the active voice and sentences in the passive voice. You need to fill in the gaps using the correct form of the verbs in brackets. First, you have to decide if the sentence is active or passive. In the active sentence, the subject performs the action on the object. So, if the sentence has an object, then the sentence is active. On the other hand, in the passive sentence, the subject receives the action. So, if the subject receives the action, then it is a passive sentence. Now, pause the video and do the task. Great. Now, let's check the answers. Excellent. Now, let's round off the lesson by completing this table. The focus of the active voice is the doer of the action, while the focus of the passive voice is the action. In the active voice, the subject does the action, while in the passive voice, the subject receives the action. The structure of the active voice is subject plus the main verb plus the object. And the structure of the passive voice is subject plus verb to be plus the past participle of the main verb. Example, the active voice. The computer monitors the robot. And the passive voice is the robot is monitored. This is the end of this lesson. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.